I'm Scott L. Miller. It's the 5th of October 2022, and welcome to my vlog of daily life in Nicaragua. Today is kind of the hump day. It's Wednesday, and I'm really working a lot on videos and on work stuff today because it's just been a busy week. A good week, though, so no complaints, just a busy one, and a little bit behind on video, so I've got a lot to do, but I nearly have our first video out for Central American Living. So please go check out that channel. It's a new channel. We're just getting the logos up, so a lot of stuff isn't there. There's only 1 minute of footage so far, but we're getting the ball rolling, right? You have to get something out, and it's very basic, and it's mostly content you've already seen on here. Slightly different, but basically the same. A house you've already seen here, and this is a local school bus. By the way, this is an actual school bus. It is a school bus physically, but it's being used as a school bus here. It is one of the colegios, one of the private schools, is doing using it as a school bus. You don't see that too often. That's actually all painted up, but they don't paint them yellow here for school. School buses that are yellow are just unpainted chicken buses. So if you see yellow, not a school bus, something else maybe, but very rare. I've honestly only seen a couple in the whole time that we've been here. But so go check out Central American Living. It would mean a lot to me to get the support from everyone here on the channel. We've only got a couple of subscribers. You guys could head over and have a ton really quickly, and it's all going to be interesting home stuff. Remember, we don't do real estate, so we're not selling anything. It's just we love showing homes and are going to eventually provide maybe some, expansive services like furnishing or decoration kind of stuff. On that channel, we are going to be looking for advertisers, and we think things like Tigo or Claro, the cell phone carriers, or home furnishing stores, like furniture stores, those kinds of things, decoration stores, are the kind of places that will make sense for that, because that's the kind of channel we want to be over there. But I think a lot of people from this channel are going to like that channel because the real estate or like house showing over here is very popular. So that was a lot of my day working on that. Otherwise, just hanging out with the family. We didn't watch anything tonight, as far as like we took a night off from Stranger Things. That's wrong. No, that's correct. That's correct. Took a night off from Stranger Things. And Liesel has decided she wants to watch Lord of the Rings. She saw the original movie when she was younger, but we're not doing that today. But soon, Dominica has authorized, she's like, just go buy all of them because she loves the Lord of the Rings movie. So soon, we're going to be buying The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings in their extended versions on Prime. And that's something I'm just going to touch on real quickly. Sometime I'm going to do a video a little bit more about this, but streaming services are a little bit different down here. I mean, we have the same ones, but how they work and what content you get is different. But one of the things that's universal, and this is good for both people living like here and people who are just traveling, Amazon Prime, when you buy stuff, you own it and you can watch it anywhere in the world. So yeah, it's a different model. We get used to this, just pay monthly and get unlimited stuff, but it's not necessarily things you want to watch. If there's stuff that we actually want to own, we started going with Amazon Prime. You could probably do about the same with Apple, and we do have a few things we buy on there too, but we're kind of, for buying movies, we're kind of into Amazon Prime as the one we use, but we find it really good. So when we need a movie, and it's not that often, right? We're not big like watching movie people anymore, and lots of things are free on different channels, on different streaming services. But when we want something specific and we want to make sure we're going to be able to watch it over and over again, so The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings in this case, extended versions, complete trilogies, Amazon Prime makes that we buy it and we don't have to take anything with us. We can just hook up our Prime account to whatever TV, smart TV we have, or onto like a stick and plug it in on HDMI, or use a computer or a laptop, and we can watch those movies wherever we are all the time. So our library comes with us. That's really nice, and we don't have to worry about VPNs or anything like that with the streaming service problems. So that's why we do that. We really like it. And by the way, if you've ever looked, Lord of the Rings, the entire trilogy extended, is only $30 for the trilogy. Really not bad at all. So that was my day. Not very much to tell about. The question that came up by Banana Patch, but it's something I was planning on talking about this week anyway, is home remodeling here. And I had some thoughts about it that I wanted to share. So it's perfect that Banana Patch, and I forgot to do this the other day, but I show the thing here and you can like see the question, and it adds something to I can't believe I forgot to do it. That's how busy this week was. Sometimes I don't get to actually watch the videos in their entirety, or if I do, I can't pay that close of attention, and it's a little bit of a problem. Oh, the car driving by just reminded me, we made an offer on a car today. We won't know until next week. mostly because the car needs to come here to Leon. It's in Managua, and we're going to drive it. And if all goes well, I think we're going to be getting it. And it's nothing exciting. We're not getting a Ferrari. The Lamborghini fell through. We decided to just go for a 2015 Toyota Corolla. So I know it's not the exciting thing you guys were hoping to see on the show, but if we do end up getting it, it's going to give us a lot of ability to do a lot more traveling around the country, a lot more outside the city center footage real easily, more time at the beach, and a lot more drive warp kind of stuff, because we'll just have control. We'll be able to take cameras everywhere in the trunk for safety. Like, it's just going to make things a lot easier. And I know I've done a lot, and I will do more about owning and not owning cars, and when you want to and not, and what factors. For us, I mean, it's been 1.5 years with no car. And for us, mostly it's because we have businesses in other cities, and dealing with the businesses and the moving between the offices, it's really a work thing. And the ice cream guy is coming up the street. So, but today's topic, I'm going to walk towards a house, and we're going to talk about it as we go. So the question is, you know, are there really opportunities for remodeling in the country? And I think kind of the spirit of the question is are you going to get a deal on a house if it needs a lot of remodeling? I hope the ice cream isn't too loud. We'll let him come by, actually, so that that is the Eskimo man. Eskimo ice cream is the national brand of ice cream, and I've talked about it before. It is the one made with vegetable oil, but it's actually sold quite popularly on the street. So guys go by with this type of cart and similar all the time, all over the country. There's all times of day, like early in the morning, they're doing this, and all throughout the day. So getting ice cream by just listening for that sound is really easy, even on the beach. And there's Eskimo corner stores all over the place. We're about 1 block away from one right now. It will be off that way. And then there's, they of course sell it in all the grocery stores and the super minis. Nearly everywhere has Eskimo ice cream. If that's not the ice cream you want, if you're like Alan and I and you want Dos Pinos, it's a little bit more limited. You're not going to see them coming down the street normally, but there are places where you can get it pretty easily in most places, and once in a while you'll even find a Dos Pinos ice cream shop where they do like cones and stuff. Here in Guadalupe, there's one that Alan likes, and I've been to one in Matagalpa, for example, but a lot of the super minis carry it. So this house, so this is an example, and the reason I walked down here is to show this one. We showed this on the show the other day, and this one, they're asking, the same people who have another 1-bedroom around the corner down there, that one they're asking 110, this one they're asking 60. And the reason that they're asking 60 for this one is because, first of all, this facade is not great. Like, you notice there's damage, and if you really want it to look nice, you're gonna have to put in some work. Not a ton, but behind it, it's even worse. There's basically nothing behind it. It is essentially an empty lot that you need to clear. Now, these are not good prices. Do not come out and pay these prices. The 1-bedroom house is not worth anywhere near 110. Maybe it's worth more than 50, but even that I'm not convinced of. This lot, the people I've talked to were estimating it's worth somewhere in the 10 to 15 range, because it's basically a lot with an existing facade. The facade is okay, it could stay. That front roof could maybe be repaired, but probably better to replace. There's potentially material you can use inside. It does have good trees. It is a fairly large lot. We've seen it from satellite. That's about it. So it should be just essentially the price of a city lot. It's not one that you're just going to do an improvement on. It's one you're going to rebuild. So certainly going for a place that is move-in ready versus not move-in ready is going to change the prices by significant numbers. Really, really significant. But you do have to make sure that they are correct numbers to begin with. The question is, can you remodel? And yes, houses that are very modern are going to go, just like in the US or Canada, places that are already modernized, have all the amenities that a expat is going to expect. Those are going to cost significantly more than those that are, even if they're move-in ready, but they're Nicaraguan move-in ready, right? Ones that have air conditioning and sealed rooms are going to cost more by a lot than those that are open air traditional style. Those that have in-wall electric, those that have water tanks and all those kinds of things. There's a very large range of finishes that may vary between houses, and you'll find them mixed throughout the neighborhood. So very hard to identify from the outside, which I've mentioned before. So yes, the question, is there an opportunity for doing remodeling, either because it's cheaper than buying already done, or because it's something you're interested in, you find it fun, whatever, yes. Now, don't think that this is going to be a house flipping market. Absolutely not. Anything but. If you try to do that, you will guarantee to lose money. But if the question is, can you get a really, really good deal on a place that's maybe not in the best shape, or maybe has good structure but has a lot of updating to do, absolutely, that's going to help you get a much better price, and then you can do finishes exactly as you want them and customize for yourself. And if you want to do that work yourself, which maybe you just find fun and enjoyable, then absolutely that could be really, really good for you. Even if you don't want to do that work for yourself and you just want to use local labor and have a place that's more custom to your desires, no problem. Labor is exceptionally low cost and widely available. So finding someone who's willing to do that, whether it's just a handyman or construction professionals, either way, you have a lot of options that are very affordable. You may pay more than if it was already done, but it'll be custom for you rather than just taking what someone else did. For me, I prefer what someone else did because I have no way, I'm so bad at determining what something good will look like, but when I walk into a place I like, I know it immediately. So for me, pre-done and choosing a place based on the work that was already done makes more sense. But for most people, it's the opposite. So both exist as different ways to handle it. Now, one of the things that we should all be concerned about, especially as expats looking at moving to a country like Nicaragua, and when I say like, I mean such a tiny population, one of the risks, one of the things we have to worry about is gentrification. We have a potential to overly influence a neighborhood. So for example, I live here in La Rio. You guys are seeing an awful lot of La Rio. And if a whole bunch of people decided to move to La Rio, it wouldn't take too much for us to impact this market. Now, how does that actually play out? There's a lot of things I don't know about how the market would be influenced by that. Because the houses buy and sell at different paces than in the US, because the insides of houses are mostly invisible to the outside, because there's no MLS, because there's a bunch of things different, I think the actual fear of gentrification is relatively low. Now, of course, if entire neighborhoods were taken over by expats, it would gentrify and all kinds of things would change. What we don't want to have happen is a number of expats who move in cause things like local businesses to fail. So when expats do move in, it is important that they continue to use local restaurants, buy food from street vendors, buy tortillas and things from people walking down the street, use the pulperia on the corner, and so forth. Live much like a Nicaraguan does, but maybe fix up the house differently on the inside, put more money into it, or whatever. And for the most part, you can fight gentrification in a really good, healthy way. We can also make some effort to not all move into the same places. If expats move in, or anyone moves into a community and is improving things, which certainly sounds good, and that's why gentrification is a danger, is because it sounds good until it goes too far, and the people who lived there before can't. But partially that's because of things like taxes in the US, and that doesn't exist the same here. So for the most part, you don't come in, improve one house, and cause your neighbors to have to leave or not be able to afford to stay in the neighborhood. That doesn't really happen. The value of their house may go up, but only by the tiniest bit. The effect of high purchase prices in one house affecting another is relatively mitigated here. And so I think overall, the fear of gentrification is low, and the greatest impact that gentrification could have is by a change in behavior in a neighborhood due to the volume of people in it. So if so many expats moved into a neighborhood that the increased income average was not enough to offset the lowered or change in shopping and eating and work behavior, then that could have negative consequences. But that would take quite a lot of people and a lot of change of behavior. So if you're moving in and trying to act like a Nicaraguan, which we do for the most part, but certainly we have different patterns. So we do not buy tortillas from the street because we don't use tortillas of that type at home. We're potentially impacting that market slightly. We do go out to eat more, so we're positively impacting that market slightly. For example, we live near La Antigua, 1620, the restaurant, and we go there more than most people. And so because of that, we are making that restaurant able to thrive in a good way in our neighborhood. So there's positives and negatives. And of course, if you're hiring people from the neighborhood, You may make them, for example, hiring them to do housekeeping or maintenance on your house. Those kinds of things. You may be creating a market for more people who are able to go out and buy food from the street and so forth. And so there are ways to be beneficial. Basically, we don't want to have an overly large saturation of expats in any given market, or we will start influencing the city in a bad way. That said, how do we encourage that? First of all, I don't think it's a very big risk. It is very rare, and I've actually never seen it, that any given area, short of maybe certain areas in Fatima, but even there, that it is all expats looking to move in and buy house after house after house. It is much more, here's a neighborhood that we like, and there's a house here or there that expats are interested in, and they end up being very much sprinkled throughout the neighborhoods. And that works perfectly. That has almost no negative impact because it's not changing things, because it requires a group mentality to change, for example, to shut down a pulperia because no one will shop there anymore. That takes a bit. And generally where expats go in, they're able to positively influence the community by adding more income into the market, by adding more into the economy of the street or the block or the neighborhood. So generally it works pretty well. But one of the things that I was thinking about recently is how can we as expats have the best impact, not just avoid a negative impact, but actually have an extreme positive impact. And this particular corner that I already walked by and I'm walking back to has, I think, a perfect example of a thing that I'm thinking of. And this is taking what Banana Patch was asking to a completely different level, but bear with me because I think this is a thing that's very interesting. So sprinkled throughout any neighborhood, pretty much in all of Nicaragua, is the idea that there are really nice houses, normal houses, and sometimes really bad houses, all side by side, very, very close together. And this is where I think expats currently have a huge opportunity to be beneficial, both to themselves potentially and to the community. So I'm going to show this intersection really quickly. I'm actually going to stand in the intersection. Hopefully I don't get run over. So I'm going to start with this corner on the northwest. This is a beautiful classic. It's not an over the top, but a beautiful classic home that I like a lot. I love its styling. It is well kept. It has nice gardens. The interior is nice. The way the window treatments are nice. It's a good corner spot. This one is a very average home. It is well kept, it is clean, it could use a paint job, it could use some window treatments. There's a lot of things you could do to improve it, but it is a very functional corner lot and it looks good in the community. This one is a little bit better. It's not as good as the really good blue one that I first started with, but it has decent window treatments, it has nice outdoor plants. It shows how just a little bit of work to the second one I showed could make it even nicer. Add a little tile work to the outside and so forth. And then we have this corner, and this is what's really worth looking at. This spot probably could be purchased. Now, we're going to talk about can you purchase these spots in just a minute. But this spot, and we're not going to stay in the intersection, and there's no need to really stare at this spot because now you have the idea. So obviously, if you were going to buy the really fancy house here, it would cost more than the less fancy corner, and that would cost more than the not fancy corner, and they would all cost quite a bit more than the, oh my gosh, what is that corner, right? So there is a potential to spend much less money getting a lot. And as we walk through the city, I don't know if I'll find any others today, but there is a general opportunity as you walk through the city that you will see a range of lots that include broken down old walls. Sometimes those are just garage spaces, so people really don't care that it's not in great shape. And so you may have some tough time getting into those if they're actually okay spaces that just have a bad outside wall. But there are actually empty lots in the city, mostly old buildings that have fallen down. There are buildings that are in the process of falling down. There are places that have facades that are okay, but there's nothing behind them. There's all kinds of things in a variety of states, mixed right into beautiful, well-kept houses with great foliage and gardens and all kinds of things. And like this, we have no idea what this is, but if you look through here, right, there's a lot of open space in the middle of this city block, and that's probably a parking spot. But over here we have a beautiful well-kept house with these great manicured trees out front. I don't know how much you can see. And this is all mixed right across the street from each other. And if you're in a position where you're able to and interested in doing some real upgrades, which could easily mean raising a building, starting from the ground up, building an initial foundation, and building something effectively new, yes, you need to work within certain confines, first of all, of the physical lot, but also in what is Central American proper construction for the area. Does it need to be colonial, just Central American styled? You don't want to put an American house stuck in the middle of Central America. It will look weird and awkward and potentially be negative for the community. But if you can build something nice that fits in, you may have a real opportunity, and I'm going to show an example of what I mean. This is a place that we can't really tell what's going on, right? We have a pretty nice house on the right. I'm next to a truck, so it's a little bit. So that is a nice modern house. Someone built that relatively recently, and you can tell someone started, they built the first floor, and then they added the second floor, so there's some amount of time between them. And then we have what is probably just a garage here, or it is a new garage added to the house. But then here, we have what is probably essentially an empty lot or double lot, it's hard to say. And the outside wall is in terrible shape. There's something behind it. You can see that things are being used inside of there, but that is potentially a very affordable space where you could talk to someone and say, look, I'm going to make you a good offer on this lot. It's worth $3,000. I'll give you $4,000, right? Some amount to convince someone that, you know, you could move somewhere else that's actually better and take a spot like that. And in a lot of cases, no one lives there. Where someone actually lives is a little bit harder to do and may not make as much sense. But taking a spot where there's just nothing, or it's been abandoned, especially if it's been abandoned, if you can go through the process of getting access to that property, tearing it down and building something really beautiful. It could be something tiny with lots of garden space. It could be something that's a giant house that uses all the space. It could be multi-story. It could be whatever you want. You could custom build. And when you look at brand new construction down here, there's lots of beautiful homes being built. It's just there's so many really old structures that are already here, and people aren't going to tear them down. So that gives a certain feel to the neighborhoods. And by taking, instead of what tends to happen, right, is expats tend to come in, try to get a good deal on the best properties for very logical reasons, and move into the most beautiful homes. And then those really beautiful homes are no longer available to Nicaraguans. And of course, if they wanted them, they could have purchased them before. But right now, the economy is bad, so really beautiful homes are shifting from Nicaraguans to expats. And that's while it doesn't happen in huge numbers, it does happen. And that creates a gentrification effect that is a negative in many ways. But if you instead look at places that no one has been able to invest in, that no one's able to rebuild because there's no investment dollars to do so, then you can go into a community, and instead of taking the best house and taking it off the market, you can go into the worst house, into the worst lot, take the spot that no one's able to figure out what to do with, put in the time and effort to build something maybe a little bit more unique to you, maybe a little bit more unique to an expat, because, for example, we may want air conditioning in many of these lots instead of open air, although today is a gorgeous day. It's really nice out. And in doing so, you can take a street that may be a lot of decent houses, but one really ugly one that's empty, and turning it into a street that's all a bunch of really nice houses and one that's amazing, and you're a little bit higher density, but you haven't changed the density of construction because there was something there. And there's more people to go shopping and to use the pulperia and to help the local economy. And instead of that one eyesore that detracts from the other houses, it's that one really beautiful place that elevates the other houses. And sprinkling that through, finding the one bad lot, and there's plenty, right? There's no shortage of places that we could do this. And I'm happy to walk around the city and try to find these, right? I think this thing that would be relatively low cost, and you don't have to build the best place, right? You could just build a nice place. It could just fit in with the others. It could just be better than what was there before. It could just be a tiny new place that works out for you. You could build a really tiny low cost house, get one of these lots, put in a $15,000 house. That would be a little bit tough, but a $25,000 house, very doable, right? And that could create an absolute beautiful experience for you as an expat moving here, but also be incredibly beneficial, I believe, to the communities in that it helps their economy and helps elevate the community, the feel, the look and feel of the community. And like this is a great example that this is a street that is generally really pretty, and there is one house that easily is on the process of falling down and mostly abandoned, and there's just no way to tell what's going on with it. Now, of course, that brings up the next question. How do you get access to these? And that's one of the hardest things, is that in many cases, there's almost no way to track these down. In some cases, they're for sale. In some cases, they say se vende, and they're like, oh yeah, someone buy this and build something, and they're expecting to sell to locals. They're not trying to sell to foreigners, right? There's no expectation of foreigners coming in and buying empty lots or broken down lots. Like, that's not a thing. But they'd be thrilled to have someone come in and give them hundreds of dollars more than they were expecting, and to make a sale that they were probably never expecting to be able to make. But many of them are not listed. There's no one who thinks they're going to be able to make that sale, and so there's just, it will be a real challenge to track down an owner. And in many cases, ownership is unclear in Nicaragua. And so even when you have a place that people want to sell and you have identified a person that even lives there, you may not be in a position of being able to purchase simply because you're not able to locate the actual owner. Now I'm going to turn the camera around again slowly. And we're going to start with this place behind me, actually. So this is a really nice house with beautiful trees behind me, and I'm going to turn. Now this corner over here, this is a very small, I wish they would change that little bit of tin right there. But other than that, this is a nice, attractive, small house on a little corner. It would be nice if they added a window. It would be nice if they put a plant out, but that's like it. Like, it's a nice spot. And then we have this corner here, just the corner lot. The blue house next to it, the pink house next to that, they're very attractive. As you go down the street in either direction, you're full of nice houses. Back this way, nice houses. Back this way, nice houses. This one on the corner is clearly in terrible shape. It is not a large lot, but corners have a lot of potential. And even this corner, while not fancy at all, it would be nice if someone fixed up the front a little bit. It's a good sized spot with a beautiful garden space around it. It's very different than most houses. And I'm not quite sure why it's built that way, but it's neat. But this corner here has a real potential for, if someone was to buy that, and someone does live there, so you could lean in and ask and say, hey, I'm interested. Is this something I could buy? How much would you want for it, right? I'll give you $15,000. It's a nice corner in a great spot. I'm gonna tear it all down, right? I'm gonna start over. And of course you wanna talk to a lawyer and make sure it's clear to rebuild there, and that particular space is not protected or something, but that's not too hard to do. And in doing so, right, that could be a small investment, $15,000 to get a beautiful old lot. This is La Barrio. This is the oldest barrio of the city. So the lots here have been here for hundreds of years. These are not like, oh, my grandfather built that. No, no, no. It's like my grandfather's great-great-grandfather got this lot from the King of Spain, and that's how these kind of things work. So getting one of those spots, owning a really premium corner in a really desirable part of the city, and then removing something that's really an eyesore, that's making their neighbors not as, if you live next door to that house today, if you're that beautiful house directly next to it, it's different than in the US. You don't have that feeling of it being like, ooh, it's sketchy, right? But it makes the neighborhood go from all really nice houses to, it's really a major component of what you see when you're looking at that part of the street. If you were to replace that with a beautiful, small thing on the corner, you could make a very efficient, very attractive, both inside and out, home that makes the entire community elevated. Everybody wins. You get a beautiful new home at a reasonable price that's custom for you in an old part of the city where people normally can't do that, and the neighbors get an improvement to their community that helps everybody out, and it really doesn't cause gentrification because it's sprinkled in. It's not a group of people. I really like this idea, and I think if we could get people from the community here to do this and be like, it would only take a few people to make every person who does this, I feel will make a big difference to the city, to each community that they go into, and gives, hey, we would love to show those houses here on the show, and potentially on Central American Living. Let us come in, we'll film as you do this stuff and talk about the process and the value and what's being done and what kind of customizations, all that stuff. That could be really, really interesting. I would love to see that happen and love to be involved in the documentation of that process and bringing that to people. I've been thinking about this for a few months as I walk around the city and being like, man, there's so many lots that are so terrible shape, and so many of them are abandoned. That's the important thing. If someone lives there, well, that may be all they can afford. You don't want to take that away, and of course you're not taking it away. You would be offering them enough money to hopefully buy another house somewhere that makes more sense for them, and hopefully is in better shape. But in general, what you're doing is saying, we are, we're ideally looking for a spot that no one's using, that is completely worthless, and that you can find the owner and create something wonderful where currently there is nothing. That's really where I think the biggest benefit comes in to everyone involved. And the reason that locals are not doing this, there's a housing surplus right now. No one is looking for extra houses. They're not trying to figure out how to use empty lots. They're trying to figure out how to make empty lots not become problems and blights on the community. So this is directly addressing a real problem that exists today. And it's even those who want to do something about it, there is a significant lack of investment resources because of the housing shortage. There's no money in mortgages, right? Banks are not pushing to give mortgages. The government is not pushing to get people into more houses. There's just a stagnation of the housing market, and someone who's going to do that, it's not like in the US where you could flip a house and be like, well, I'm going to put in a bunch of money, we'll flip it, that'll improve, and we'll move on to the next place. No, if you do this, you're not selling that house, right? You're doing it for you, for that community. You're doing it to do a good thing, and you will benefit from having a nice place to live, hopefully, in a great community, and being able to be in a part of a barrio or a neighborhood that otherwise you wouldn't have access to, either because it was unaffordable or nothing is available, because they're such old neighborhoods, they're so established. So there's benefits, I think, to everyone through this process, and I like it a lot. So I'd love your feedback on that. I want to hear what you guys think about that, and I really want to know if there's any people who are interested in kind of tackling that. I have another project that is much bigger. I want to see this actually go out and get 5 houses. Like, let's find people who are interested in this. I want to see it happen, do some video on it. But I have some other ideas. If we had lots of expats, this is something I'm not even going to talk about until in the future. But if we had a lot of expats who are interested in doing something really wild in a similar vein, I do have some ideas, but they're incredibly ambitious on the scale that would make the city a tourist destination based on them alone. We need a lot more people on this channel who all want to put into a project just to make the city incredible before we can even talk about that. But it's within reach, but extreme. So in the meantime, I think every one of these kinds of properties, if only one was done, it's an improvement. It makes everybody better. It helps Nicaragua as a whole, it helps the community, and it helps you, hopefully. A beautiful home that costs very little, that is customized for you. I hope that answered Banana Patch's questions. Yes, you can certainly fix up any level from ground up to just remodeling an existing structure. Yes, they will cost less based on that. And like and subscribe if you'd like to support the channel directly. Buy me a coffee below. I would love it. And leave your comments. Get that conversation going. Thank you for joining me. It means so much to me. I will see all of you tomorrow.